Time now for the day's business news, and Yuka Roye joining me here in the studio. Hello to you, Yuka. Starting first of all with more people may go hungry as the Ukraine war drags on.
No, that's right. Well, food prices will have already been, but were already at record high levels back in February. And now new figures show that the surge has accelerated since Russia invaded Ukraine. The UN Food and Agriculture Organization's Global Food Price Index jumped nearly 13% in March. Cereal prices climbed 17% and vegetable oil went up 23%. Both Russia and Ukraine are major exporters of grains. The FAO says that at least a fifth of Ukraine's winter crop area will not be harvested this year because of the fighting. Catherine Viet has more.
World food prices have hit their highest level since the UN Food Agency began tracking food price indexes in 1990. According to the FAO, prices jumped by nearly 13% last month, an unprecedented increase from an already record high level hit in February. The agency says the war in Ukraine is causing turmoil in markets for staple grains and vegetable oils.
What is happening in Ukraine with Russia Federation is affecting the whole world food security. And in this situation, we are now facing significant increase in prices of all commodities and significant increase in prices of inputs. So what this means is that we expect undernourishment, chronic undernourishment, to keep going up.
As major exporters of wheat, Russia and Ukraine are considered to be among the world's main bread baskets. The two countries also account for a huge share of the globe's exports of corn, barley, and sunflower oil. Last month, the FAO warned global food prices could rise by up to 20% as a result of the war. The agency says the entire world's food security is being affected by the conflict. Around 50 countries import at least 30% of their cereals from Ukraine and Russia, while about 26 countries import more than half of their grains from the two top producers. The FAO is also warning that the situation for the most vulnerable economies will remain critical through next year.
Turning to global stock markets now, and European shares broadly rising this Friday, with commodity and banking shares leading the rally. London's FTSE looking set to cap a fifth week of gains in a row. Some more of the day's business headlines for you now. And Sri Lanka's National Medical Association has warned that hospitals will be unable to provide emergency services in coming weeks amid severe shortages of essential goods. The country of 22 million has been in the grips of the worst economic crisis in decades. An industry group says exports could plunge up to 30% this year, and little money is left to pay for imports. Japan says it will reduce its imports of Russian coal following a fresh round of Western sanctions targeting Moscow. Russia accounted for 11% of coal needs last year in the world's third largest importer of the commodity. Tokyo says it's looking for alternative sources with the aim to ban Russian coal altogether. The United States, meanwhile, has taken action against three Russian airlines, Aeroflot, Utair and Azur Air, that it says have already violated sanctions. The measures will prevent them from obtaining American-made parts that are needed for maintenance. The aim is to make it difficult for them to keep flying, both internationally and within Russia.
And Yuka, as we're seeing these Western governments pile on economic pressure on Moscow, it's already having an impact on daily life in Russia.
Well, prices within Russia have been rising as the country is heading for double-digit inflation this year. Moscow's central bank says it has taken enough monetary measures to combat this, but has decided to cut its key interest rate from 20% to 17% starting Monday. The government insists the economy can withstand the impact of unprecedented Western sanctions.
In St. Petersburg, shoppers are complaining about recent price hikes on everyday goods. Inflation is expected to rise by a staggering 20% this year.
You go to the store, look at the prices, and honestly just roll your eyes, because it's very expensive, very expensive.
We were completely unprepared for this. Prices have gone up, but not wages.
A month and a half into the harshest sanctions coordinated by the West, Russia's economy is showing signs of cracking. Agencies are predicting a 10 to 15% drop in GDP this year. As car makers and other big firms close their operations in Russia, the country's manufacturing output last month fell to 44% compared to a year ago, according to Standard & Poor's. That's the steepest decline since the coronavirus first struck 2 years ago. Russia's prime minister acknowledged that Western sanctions have the economy facing its most difficult situation in 3 decades. But he warned that attempts to isolate the country will fail.
Such sanctions were not enforced, even during the darkest years of the Cold War. Their goal is to set us back years or even decades, cut us off from the world, force Russia to abandon promising economic and social projects, and strike at the standard of living of our people. Their plan didn't work out. Our financial system, which is the lifeblood of the entire economy, has survived.
Meanwhile, many Russians are bracing for tough times ahead and stocking up on supplies.
Well, Tesla opened a new Gigafactory in Texas, but people's focus was on the big opening party held nearby.
Well, many people were disappointed at not being able to join an invitation-only event. The chief executive Elon Musk appeared on stage wearing a cowboy hat, announcing plans to make futuristic self-driving cars, though he didn't give a time frame for this. The move from California has tax implications for Tesla and the world's richest man, while the Golden State has the highest rates of personal income tax and capital gains tax. Texas doesn't have either of them. It's good news for locals too.
I think it's a great thing for Austin. I think it's a great thing for Texas, for all of the businesses coming here. I say everybody come to Texas, you know.
A bunch of people from LA are moving into the city. You know, there are a lot of tech. You have a lot of tech in the city. It wasn't ever like this. It's super new.
Austin's a great place to start a business. I think it's becoming more and more like California, which I think a lot of Austinites don't like. But it's great that it's providing jobs for people. And as long as it doesn't crowd I-35 too bad, we should be in good shape.
Well, good news for Texas there, but Tesla's factory in Shanghai remains shut because of the city's COVID lockdowns.
All right, Yuka, thank you very much. Yuka Roy.